Good evening, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us here tonight. A special thank you to Amadou Kouyaté for that beautiful introduction on the Kora. Amadou is a 150th generation Deli, and we're so lucky to have him here with us today. My name is Kayla Matura, and I'm so excited to be your host this evening for the official launch of the Virtual Dance Exchange Project. I'm a senior musical theater major and dance minor at Point Park University right here in Pittsburgh. In theater, we have this saying, the show must go on. And due to unforeseen circumstances, your original host was unable to be here tonight. So, about 24 hours ago, I got the call to step in. And I'm so glad I said yes, because I had never seen a choreographed piece filmed with 360 technology until today, and it was amazing. And I don't think I could have picked a better place to spend my evening, because tonight, we will be getting an inside look as we speak with the masterminds behind this project, from the choreographers to the filmmakers. There will also be a Q&A near the end of the program, so if you have any questions, please remember them because we would love to hear from you. The Virtual Dance Exchange Project was funded last March through the Arts Equity Reimagined Fund, and their entire team has been working nonstop to bring you safe, never-before-seen experiences, allowing their audiences to witness the greatness that happens when you combine art with technology. Tonight we have an in-studio audience and an online audience joining us via Crowdcast, and we're so happy to have both of you here tonight. This last year has been incredibly difficult for all of us, especially those in the performing arts. When nearly all of the theater shut down, it was heartbreaking. It was scary to see everything that centered me go away. So as theaters begin to reopen, I strongly encourage everyone to go and support the arts, a community that uplifts and inspires and is dedicated to doing so. If you would like to donate to the Virtual Dance Exchange Project for the year 2022, please visit ShanaSimmonsDance.com, and you can click on the Donate tab. There's also a GoFundMe link, which will be sent in the chat by Emily. Before we begin, I would also like to recognize the Arts Equity Reimagined Fund, who has so generously donated $100,000 to this project. This would not be possible without you, the New Sun Rising, or the 16 other foundations that support AER. Thank you for supporting the arts. So without further ado, let's roll the footage and see what this group has been up to. I'm so excited to welcome our first guest, Miss Chrisala Brown, who created the piece For George. Chrisala, thank you for being here. How are you?
I am so overjoyed, honestly.
Good, good. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with this project?
Oh boy, okay. I am a transplant to Pittsburgh, though I've been here since the high school years. I went to Kappa, Pittsburgh High School for the Creative and Performing Arts. After that, I spent a couple years at Pitt and ended up at Temple University, where I hold a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Dance. I'm not going to say what year that was, but since then, in coming back to Pittsburgh, I found it very important to continue the purpose of sharing movement and the understanding of each other through movement, whether it be, creative movement with my little babies, 2, 3 years old, just learning how to get their bearings, to even our elders within our community who are continuing to move and continuing to use their facility. We'll get more into that later. But that is kind of why I do what I do, and I enjoy it. I love it. It's wonderful to still be able to use that part of my voice, in ways that hopefully benefit our community, and we leave the world a little better.
Thank you for that. I just watched your piece about an hour ago, and it was so beautiful. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your inspiration for that and the story behind For George.
So, For George, where do I start? Gazebo Park in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, which sits at the corner of Franklin Street and Wood Street, is decorated with these beautiful murals. I'm sure that you saw them in the little promo intro piece that we had. The lead artist on that is a gentleman by the name of Kyle Holbrook. But the second name on the wall is a gentleman by the name of George Gist. And George Gist is one of our elders within our community, elder artist. And you will see his work around Pittsburgh in places that you don't necessarily think is his, okay? Because he's very soft-spoken, very humble man, but a very world-renowned artist. And he passed away last year. And within our community, it's important to honor our elders. Even in their passing, he offered us something that is still evidence of just his love for the community. And to be able to share in that moment, even though he is not there, that's something that I really wanted, to do as a member of the Legacy Arts Project, so that's a whole other thing. But as a member of the Legacy Arts Project, also we honored Mr. Gist a couple years ago as a keeper of the flame. So someone who is a torchbearer, someone who lights the path for us. The gentleman earlier, Amadou Kouyaté, I've known him for a number of years, but as a jelly, his role within the community is keeping the records. It's a storytelling. Mural Park, the Gazebo Park, is a record of an existence, of a life lived. So the more we can tell those stories through music, through dance, through visual arts, then that is what it continues to tell the story of our community. And that's what, again, that's what draws me to create, is keeping our community together.
I'm in an African dance class right now at school, and I don't look as good as everyone on the film, but it's a lot of fun. And I was wondering if you could talk about what the most rewarding experience of this project has been, because I know in our class we talk about how deeply rooted African dance is and honoring community and your heritage. So what was that like?
So in my piece, first of all, it's intergenerational. Shout out to all of my amazing collaborators, artists in the piece. I had a set of brothers, the twins, who, you may see them around town, Dante and Anthony Mitchell. I had 2 mother-daughter sets. I had a young lady who was kind of starting, to get her footing as a young adult. And then I had one of my elders as well. So, being able to show this intergenerational group of people, we've been together at some way, shape, or form 20, 25 years. That's our community. That is our family unit. So we come together not just to take dance classes. We come together and we use this music, this dance to celebrate. So in being able to put that in a recorded fashion and have people experience literally being in the middle of that, you're looking around, you're seeing your child, you're seeing your grandmother, you're seeing, your brothers, your sisters, whoever it may be that is special in your life. Just imagine being surrounded by them. And that was pretty much what it was like. It was like dancing with family.
That's so beautiful. Well, I really admire you and everything you do. And I know not only are you a choreographer, but you work at University of Pittsburgh.
I do.
Could you talk a little bit about what it's like balancing all of these things and doing such a good job at each of them?
I think everyone wants to find their dream job. And quite honestly, I think I found my dream job. I work in a lab, a psychology lab. It's the Brain Aging and Cognitive Health Lab. And I am a facilitator on a study called the Rhythm Experience and Africana Culture Trial. So right there, you should know, Rhythm Experience and Africana Culture Trial, there may be some African dance involved, and there is. But in studying brain health, especially the cognitive brain health of older African Americans, we use African dance as an exercise intervention. One we've seen, just overall, not, we haven't analyzed data yet, but quality of life, creating that community by inviting, people into class. We've had old high school friends. We've had, I used to live 2 blocks away from you, to come together in this, in this sort of like pod of existence. And it's like you have your community. As we age, just a general statement, but as we age and start making that transition out of life, it's important to keep people around us. Mm-hmm. So what tends to happen is you do have that loneliness factor, but being able to say, why? We shouldn't have to do that. We are still a community no matter where we go, even if it's seeing the same person at the grocery store every Wednesday morning. Mm-hmm. You're still a community, So being able to sort of use what I have acquired over the years. Excuse me, I didn't know I was covering my mic. What I've acquired over the years, now in a professional setting, meaning that people are looking to our work for inspiration, continuing to serve as that inspiration. It's a dream job.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here. It was an honor to watch your work. You're incredible.
Thank you.
Of course. So for those of you who do not know, we have an in-studio audience with us tonight. And just about an hour ago, they got to experience the Virtual Dance Exchange Project 2021 on a high-tech VR headset. And we took some photos and videos to show you guys, if you want to roll that footage.
You probably won't need to use any of those. Probably the most trigger. Now, one question for you. Do you want to watch Shana's piece only? The whole thing is 26 minutes. I know what you're talking about. Sorry.
All right, I am so excited to welcome our second guest of the evening, Miss Karen Alexander. Karen, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Caleb. I'm really thrilled to be here. This is a special night.
Good. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got started working with XR.
Okay, well, I came to this from a strange angle. I have a PhD in English literature and I was working in higher education, but I had learned about XR technologies and in 2016 took a really deep dive into them. And I had previously been very inspired by a moment in the late 60s and early 70s when video technology was introduced, and it allowed women to tell their stories and the stories of other women. And this was a really powerful thing for me. And so when I got my first consumer grade 360-degree camera in 2016, I found that I felt very empowered because I was able to make my own videos as someone who didn't have a background in film and in this powerful new medium that immersed you within the scene and made you feel like you were there within it. So when I moved to Pittsburgh in 2017, I started a program called PGH in 360 Youth Perspectives, in which I worked with community organizations to teach teens how to make 360-degree videos, to tell their own stories about issues that matter to them, and to let people see their perspectives on the issues.
That's amazing.
And now I've been 5 years working in XR technology, XR including virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, and 360 video.
So do you travel to different schools and have like a program that you've set up to introduce the youth to 360?
Well, I have, since the pandemic started, that activity has fallen off. I do want to pick it up again, but I did some other things with other community organizations, including an arts organization called ACH Clear Pathways, working with little kids to help them to create 3D worlds and stories that they could then watch in virtual and augmented reality. And that was so exciting. They were just thrilled to make these stories with these tools, and they didn't realize that they were learning mathematical concepts such as degrees of rotation and the relationship between speed and distance while they were doing this. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So what kind of creative input do you have, being someone who is behind the scenes working with the tech? Are you allowed to kind of put your opinions in while they're dancing and choreographing?
Not so much then, but what we did is that I gave the choreographers these consumer grade 360 cameras, taught them how to use them, and gave them some tips on how to stage things with them so that they could practice with them. Because choreographing for 360 is entirely different from choreographing in traditional media or even for the stage, right? It's not bounded by the rectangles. You have to completely rethink everything. So I was advising them about that, as well as just working behind the scenes on a lot of other aspects of the project, including putting this event together. And I would make some recommendations now and then, but for the most part, I was a facilitator to it.
Nice. I know that Jae-hee Cho, who is here tonight, was the filmographer, and I was wondering if you could talk about how you two connected.
Yes, well, I mentioned the PGH in 360 Youth Perspectives project, and I was introduced to Jae-hee from someone at the Carnegie Mellon University Entertainment Technology Center, and Jae-hee has a degree from the ETC, and he actually came and helped me with the first iteration of that project. Which was great, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And I knew, as I said before, I felt very empowered by using consumer-grade 360 cameras, but I knew that Jae-hee was much more skilled technically than I was. So I said, for this project, for the main video, we have to bring him in and have him do the videography and editing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, could you talk a little bit about how 360 filming works? Because you can see everything. So what is the camera? What does that require to have something that can set up and capture everything?
Right. So I wish I had remembered to bring some cameras to show you, but these small consumer grade ones are, this big. You could stick them in your pocket, but they are spherical and have two back-to-back sort of fisheye lenses. And so they record simultaneously and capture everything in all direction. And then there's specialized editing software that stitches those different videos together. And for these videos, for the final product, we used my Insta360 Pro camera, which has 6 lenses. It's about this big. It is a sphere. And so again, it films in all directions, and all these 6 different cameras that are incorporated into it, the footage from those has to be combined and stitched together. And yeah, so that means you are inside the video. You're looking from the perspective of the camera when you're watching a 360 video in a headset.
I'd never seen anything like it. I felt like I was like floating in the middle of everything and having everything dance around me. So that's really cool to hear how it's all come together. But thank you for being here and for your collaboration on this project.
Thank you so much. Yeah, really excited.
So coming up, we have some dancer demonstrations, which I'm super pumped about, as well as 2 interviews with Bianca Johnson and Shana Simmons. So stay tuned after this brief audio message. All right, I'm so excited to welcome our 3rd guest of the evening, who is the creator of Mill 19, Miss Bianca Johnson, who is joining us via Zoom all the way from New York City. Bianca, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being here. So could you talk to me a little bit about who you are and what your involvement with this project's been like being remote in New York City?
Yeah, sure. I am a teaching artist and choreographer based in Brooklyn, New York. My son is over here. If you hear any joyful noises, it's coming from my 3-year-old who is up way past his bedtime. Okay. So I met Shana in 2005. We were teaching artists at National Dance Institute, and we just love each other and we love working together. And when we were in lockdown, we decided to work on a project together. And she introduced me to these incredible women, Chrisala and Karen, and VDEP was born. And, you know, living in a COVID world and trying to create work is really different in New York than it is in Pittsburgh. We couldn't even get into a studio. So we were all rehearsing from our basements and our bedrooms and our living rooms and just trying to create a piece that we really had to sort of imagine. We had never done 360 before. We could never be in a room together. The first time we ever danced together was at the Mill, actually, the night before the filming with Jay. And, you know, it was so challenging, but these dancers are so incredible and so giving and so honest and work so hard that it just makes it, you know, it made it a really magical experience, even though we sort of had to imagine what it was in our head. We never really knew what it would be until we met Jay, really.
Thank you for that. Could you speak a little bit about the significance of the gestures in your piece?
Sure. Very early in our conversations, we spoke a lot about the inequities in the arts community in Pittsburgh and specifically with Black women. And, you know, Chrisala was so generous in sharing a lot of articles that I really dove into about how Pittsburgh is one of the most amazing and livable cities except for Black women. And so I took a lot of that information. I did a lot of research about Pittsburgh and used that as the foundation for a lot of the movement. I was also reading a book called You Are Your Best Thing by Tarana Burke and Brene Brown, which is about vulnerability and shame resilience and the Black experience. So I took a lot of the words and the phrases from that anthology mixed with the incredible research that I was given from all of the women, actually, and try to create a foundation that the dancers could then improvise on top of, just giving them structure that they could sort of move freely within.
Awesome. Could you talk to me a little bit about what your process was like choreographing remotely and how you can kind of convey the specific style of movement you want, like intricacy-wise over Zoom, and how you did that remotely?
Yeah, I mean, you really have to depend on your dancers in these moments. You know, we had a lot of really deep conversations. I've known these people for most of my life. I've known one of the dancers, Dustin, since I was 8, and the youngest dancer was 19, and he was actually my student when I was pretty much first starting out as a teacher. He's saying hi, Coltrane. So really just trying to be as descriptive as possible with my words, really just trying to, you know, give them enough information for them really to take flight. I mean, really, when you're a choreographer, all you're doing is giving them steps, but it's really the dancer's job to really make it real. And I think the dancers did a beautiful job of that.
Your piece was so beautiful, so thank you for all your hard work. It definitely paid off. But thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, last but not least, we have our fourth guest of the evening, Shana Simmons, who I've known for a couple of years. She was my first modern teacher at Point Park, and it's been such a pleasure getting to know her. So Shana, could you talk to me a little bit about your process combining technology with dance and then introducing something completely new to the general public who has never experienced dance this way before?
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, so what we did to start the process after, you know, the numerous conversations we had with Karen, and she also shortchanged herself a little bit. She had a lot to do with the creative process. Her input during these discussions that we would have as a group, I mean, we discussed probably for 3 months, once a week, for 2 hours about all of these topics, these difficult topics. And so her input was invaluable in that way to, I think, all of our inspiration for what we created. And then based on that and the technology and filming in 360, what my dancers and I did was we went into the studio and we just started experimenting with the camera. So we did a couple of experiments, and I actually wanted to show some today.
Yes.
So we have 2 dancers here that are in the piece, Osset Fullard and Jamie Erin Murphy. And one of the things that we did, they're going to demonstrate one of the sections that is you'll see in the work. And basically, Zach August was actually in this role, but Jamie's going to take over because we really experimented, all of us doing different things. And one thing we had talked about, as they were a very intricate part in the collaborative process of the creation of my piece, we had a lot of talks in the studio. How did that make you feel? What do you see? What are you thinking about? And so what this part is in the first section is 2 of them are talking about their experiences simultaneously. One being Jamie's going to observe Osset's movement and kind of superimpose things that physically she might be seeing. And then Osset's moving and she's going to be just talking about what she's thinking about while she's doing it. So if you want to take it away.
I actually feel like my feet are a little stuck right now. But my fingers are dipping into the green color. And I feel like I kind of just throw it away all the way over here. My back space pulling me, and I'm noticing she was just doing what I was doing. And I kind of want to repeat that again. Slow down.
She needs to slow down.
I just want to step and feel myself grounded.
You can see your
Where the light is shining on my fingertips.
Very grounding.
And I'm repeating and gathering space.
Moving, curving.
And I want to walk this time.
He will. So we would, thanks, yeah, we're going to do it one more time. So we would do something like that in a variety of different situations. And then we also played around with the 360 technology in kind of guiding the viewer's gaze. So we did this a couple times, and then I said, why don't you try to superimpose some emotion into it? So kind of like, what are you seeing them, and how can you assume something on them? Because a lot of it is about perception of bodies, which kind of, has to do with when bodies are on stage and how critics or like reviews might talk about those bodies and what that means for the difference. So, you can do something physical or you could do something emotional. So we tried that, and that's what they're going to show you now. So they're going to kind of superimpose some assumptions into it.
I've been cold, and I'm kind of feeling this downpouring, and I'm falling, and now I want to repeat that again.
She looks released.
And I'm
And
throwing
confident.
it back, and I want to fly over here, and I'm noticing something.
I can feel that she's inspired.
Why are you looking at me? But I'm back here again.
She's focused
But this time I'm not as grounded.
and open.
But my hands are gathering the light again.
Very detailed and emotion
But
grabbing.
this time, I feel the emptiness between my fingers.
Thank you guys. So yeah, that's pretty much where we started, and we started moving around with that kind of stuff. And then basically the second part of that was thinking about the spaces that we were going to be in. And I had the privilege of being able to go into that space a little bit and kind of start to choreograph based on the spaces. So we used the columns a lot and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was incredible. I loved your piece. I didn't like when I couldn't see any dancers because it was kind of spooky, and I didn't like being left
Yes.
alone. So I was like,
Yes.
somebody's come on. Could you talk a little bit about the mission of the Virtual Dance Exchange Project and kind of where you see the future of it going?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're all involved. It's a collective of people. So we have talked a little bit about what we're doing in 2022. And, I think the crux of it is always this merging of new technologies and dance as well as uplifting BIPOC artists. So that's a huge part and that we'll always maintain. And I think that, Karen's really pushing for volumetric video next year, which is holographic imaging.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
So,
crazy.
yeah, we don't know, we need to do some more research. Once this wraps up, we're going to start delving into what the next year's plan is. But we always want to potentially collaborate with other outside artists, as well as other Pittsburgh-based artists, and in this blending of different dance communities, this comparison of what's happening in your city, what's happening in our city, how can we learn from each other, and then, filming possibly in Pittsburgh every time, maybe not, but it could manifest in a bunch of different ways. So, really, the vision as far as what technologies we're using, it's changing. Karen always says it's changing so fast at all times. So I feel like that's kind of open-ended, but, we're going to delve into something next year and then delve into something the next year after that.
Well, congratulations, and thank you for all your hard work on the piece. It's amazing. So up next, we're going to go into our Q&A portion of the evening. But before we do, I just wanted to remind everyone that donations are ongoing and can be sent through the Donate tab at shanasimmonsdance.com or through the GoFundMe page under the same name. Now, for the Q&A, we have these three incredible women.
And Bianca.
Yeah, and Bianca, who you heard speak tonight. And we also have the filmographer here, Jae-hee Cho, as well as Jeff Berman, who is the musician for Mulberry. So let's start with an in-studio question. And if you have any questions online, feel free to type them in the chat, and we'll make sure that they get answered.
First of all, congratulations on your achievement. This was, it just feels transformational, so thank you for sharing it with us. And Caleb, you are incredible as well, so count yourself in.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure this is so much a question, but an observation, but if it generates an answer, that's fantastic. So it's clear that what's happening is, as I said, transformational. It's like the fourth wall is falling down, and we're not a static audience anymore watching people perform for us. It's happening around us. You can see how that would spark creativity, and it's evolutionary for you as artists and creative technologists. What do you see happening in terms of? Do I need to step closer? Okay, sorry about that. Do I need to start over?
Say it all again. It's fine. Thank you.
Incredible. Congratulations. We good? Yeah? You guys can hear me though,
Yeah.
right? Okay. There's going to be new expectations like coming from an audience. I mean, this was the first time I'd actually even experienced that, and it was at first a little overwhelming, realizing you can turn around and see everything around you. The dancers are going around you. So it's much less static than, you know, a traditional artist audience experience. It's much more dynamic. Can any of you sort of say, like, what do you feel that's going to contribute to your inspiration, and what advice would you give to an audience experiencing something like this for the first time? So.
Well, I mean, I don't know if this answers, but it's a challenge. I mean, because it really is trying to convince someone that you need the pen, not the pencil, you know, and it's not that we don't love the pencil, it's just the pen is different and you should experience it. I think it, you know, opens up a lot of different possibilities. Karen, again, I'm going to quote Karen all day, but she said, you know, in one of our conversations, it's not, wait, Karen, just why don't you say it? It's not the creativity that is the limit. What is it?
Right. It's not the technology that imposes the limits, it's the limits of our imagination. And so we need to dream big and to imagine what we can do, and the technology will follow.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. It's allowing your imagination to open up to new realms. And we are we're not ready for it, but I mean, it's just we're not used to it. Mm-hmm. So in that way, you know, when we talk about, like, there's other, you know, live virtual reality, the digital creation of a world, you know, that's already happening. And I think it's about kind of opening up your imagination and then getting out there and having people experience it. You know, I think that live interaction helps to facilitate the knowledge of it. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Sure.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to add?
I think also, you know, just thinking about how we have experienced this VR, virtual reality, in the past has been mostly through, like, gaming, you know, this creation of a world and you exist. And one of the videos that I actually shared with us was this guy in this complete, like, he was actually harnessed in to an entire, like, module that his entire body was controlling whatever was happening in the game. So even if he was running, they had this, like, you know, little, like, half moon, you know, cup that he was in. So as he's running, the speed of him running in real life was the speed of him running in the game. And so just seeing that, I'm like, what if we actually created a dance where the person is now also dancing and has to go with us?
Yeah.
It could happen, you know, so that's, you know, it really is the limitation is not really even there. Maybe the technology, but, you know, it's going.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing we have to realize is that new technologies like this do open up new creative possibilities and allow artists to do something more and something different. And it was just wonderful for me to help facilitate these beautiful artistic creations, which I appreciate very much. And it's just been a delight to be involved with this project. So, yeah.
Do we have any other questions from the studio audience?
I don't have a question, I just have. I'm short too. Is this working? I just have an observation about it, and I never thought, I'm not of the generation that's into technology. And I never thought I would say that technology would bridge a gap between something like the performing arts and human beings. But that was so submersive that I didn't have a chance to think about anything else but what I was seeing. And I don't think we ever take time or have the concentration to do that. So it was very neurological, you know, from the brain, from sight, brain to physicality, you know, and I want to feel that again. And I know I've gone to concerts, dance concerts, proscenium stages, where I'm just sitting there and watching. There's a lot of distractions, and I don't really feel what the dancers are feeling. And I feel like with that
technology, you are forced to. You are forced to feel that. And that's what you want to do when you go to a proscenium stage and view. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And we have one question online from someone that says, what inspired you all about the 3 site-specific dance performance spots? How did you choose where you filmed?
Bianca, can she jump on and start with that? No? Okay, no problem. I mean, the locations really, it started, for me at least, we talked a lot about location, obviously, but then we just started scouting. So it really just started by seeking locations. But then whenever we started to find the locations, I think that the through line became apparent that it was about the locations. And for me, I feel like after we all talked about it extensively, it became different stages of renewal and regeneration. I think that each of the locations they're owned by different entities. So one's owned by a company out in Miami, one is owned by a local grassroots organization that's just starting, and then one is owned by the borough, but the renovation of it was a local artist, So yeah, and Chrisala really had her eye on that space for a while. I don't know if you want to talk about, she went back and forth a little bit, but.
I did. So Bianca hit on it a little bit, that in the beginning, our conversations really were about, what do we see? What are the disparities that exist? What are the divides that exist? And around, with COVID, a lot of things were sort of coming to light, within the African American community in Pittsburgh, in particular, because that's where I am. But something was happening also within sort of like that borderline between the 2 cities of Pittsburgh and Wilkinsburg that really sort of propelled me in the direction. And that was I'm going to just call it out because that's how it started. And that was the painting over of part of the mural on Penn Avenue when they were doing construction. And they actually did not notify the main artist, Kyle Holbrook. And so, it was really one of those things where this is the threshold between 2 cities. You see it every day, and now it's gone, as if it never happened. And a lot of times, especially as a Black woman, sometimes what happens is we put in work, and then someone can come in and just wipe it over like it never happened. And so it was really important for me to highlight this park, one, because, Mr. Gist, George Gist, did pass away. So not just as a way of honoring him, but as a way of realizing that, we face a lot of things that we don't necessarily like to talk about. And one is the erasure of culture, as if it never even happened. I went to Pittsburgh Catholic when it was in Homewood Rushton, almost like it never even happened, right? We've had conversations like that, so I can say that. People just don't know that that's where it started. And so that has been an important part of my conversation in my community. And that is and that is basically just making sure that people know the history, know what has happened within our environments and have knowledge, of that and can hold it. Progress is definite, it's going to happen, but understanding where we've progressed from. So that's for George.
Thank you. Any questions from the studio audience?
Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for giving me the honor to be here tonight. I have a lot of wonderful friends here. I want to amplify the discussion about the venue and the spaces. I know a lot of artists talk about memories in the past, and when I looked at all of your spaces that you created work in, I know there were a lot of things that you felt when you were in that space. And especially with the mural project, I know there's a lot of history there. And when you look at a disintegrated church, what does that bring in terms of a memory of who was there? And why is it so empty? And why is it not being used anymore? And I like the history of how we treat our buildings and our built space, and how we destroy what is important to our communities. When I came to Pittsburgh, I immediately came to East Liberty and have watched the destruction a lot of the spaces. And there was a mural that was beyond Alicia Wormsley's statement of there are black people in the future. There was a mural on one of the side buildings that was deemed not appropriate for the community. So a lot of artists are being erased, but having a space to amplify your voices, I think, is very important in this kind of project. So can you talk a little bit about memory in choreography? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that, so one thing in the Mulberry piece was we did utilize the dancers' personal experiences from churches, any church really. And that, like, there was a lot of text, there was cutout text, there was a whole scene that is never going to be seen. No, it's a mystery scene. Maybe we'll release it. But you know, there was like a lot of things going on. But yeah, so that all of that text was taken from their own relationships to churches, and that whole building. I mean, Jody Guy and Center for Civic Arts. That's what the place is called now, and the organization that is trying to renovate it. And really, I mean, and all of these places gave us these spaces for free, which I think is really important. All of them really supported the arts in that way. So when you're talking about space, you know, that is a huge, you know, relevant topic and asset that artists need, especially dance artists in the city of Pittsburgh right now. But yeah, the church itself is huge, and Jody basically wanted to take it over because it was falling apart. So she just made this initiative to try to regenerate it. And they're trying to build all performance spaces that are going to be utilized by Wilkinsburg or local artists. So that's her vision for the space. But yeah, I feel like, I think that the text in Mulberry, because it is based on memory, connected the dancers to this space that they don't have an experience with, you know, and they're doing documentaries about that space as well, and that it was about to be lost, you know, the memory was about to go away. And actually, Chrisala and I talked about Wilkinsburg was once the most church per capita in Pittsburgh?
In the Northeast, actually.
In the Northeast.
More churches per capita.
So, I mean, and Wilkinsburg is a very specific community that we were honored to be able to be in. But yeah, I mean, the memory of that too, and choosing a church space, I think, was part of that decision. Mm-hmm.
I think for my piece in particular, the memory comes from the rhythm, you know, and knowing that I did not specifically call out what the rhythms were that I used in the work, but I used two rhythms that hail from West Africa. One is Sosone, and then the other is Mane, which both come from the Susu people, Susu ethnic group, which predominantly occupy what is now the Republic of Guinea. And being women in this circle, Sosone is generally a dance of strength for women. Mane is a dance that daughters do for their mothers. And so when you're on the continent, when you're in the streets, you know, of Kaloum or in the streets of Conakry, and you hear these rhythms being played, you know what's going on. So you don't have to guess. If you hear Mane, it's going to be a wedding or a baby, one of those two things. You know, because it still uses a celebratory, you know, gesture. It's, you hear the music and then you go and you see the event happening. So memory in that sense, this is something that is passed down, you know, through generations of artists. And, just as an artist who has been taken in by, people from the continent, so, and I say that in very generic terms, even though it's very specific for me, knowing that they are sharing their culture with me in hopes that I am taking it, holding it, and then sharing it with the next generation. That's the importance, and one of the additional through lines is carrying that tradition so that it can be passed on. Honoring the space so that our children can know why we honor the space. So that's, I guess, how memory plays a part in for George. Yeah.
Any other studio questions? All right, well, thank you guys also for your questions and for sharing your evening with us tonight. Being able to talk to this incredible team has left me feeling so inspired and excited about what the future holds for virtual performance. If you would like to donate to the Virtual Dance Exchange Project and fund innovative, electrifying, and state-of-the-art projects, I strongly encourage you to donate, which you can do by clicking the Donate tab at shanasimmonsdance.com or visiting the GoFundMe page under the same name. Now, if you missed the Virtual Dance Exchange Project 2021 show, do not fret, because you have until November 20th to view it from the comfort of your own home if you want to catch visually stunning choreography with 360 technology. If you enjoyed tonight, you are going to love our upcoming online speaker series, which starts October 5th and features experts in arts equity all the way from LA to Canada. Shana, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. We're excited. It is the secondary part to the Virtual Dance Exchange Project. I won't take a lot of time explaining it, but it is a 3-part dialogue series. I think it's relevant to anyone that is interested in civic development, arts and culture, technology, and all of these dialogues are going to talk about all of that, equity and education and professional development, all of those things. Each dialogue has a different theme. Our first one is next Tuesday, and it's October 5th. It starts at 7 p.m. They're all online, and they're all on Zoom. So everyone, the audience can really have a voice. We want questions. We have gathered expert panelists to discuss amongst each other while we're asking them questions. And hopefully, all of these conversations, really the goal was to generate further conversation and possibly creative solutions. So Karen is actually going to be one of the moderators for the first one. And she's just going to talk a little bit about her approach to all of that and how you moderate a panel and who's on it.
Yeah, awesome.
Sure. Well, yes, I've moderated a lot of panels, and I'm not sure what to say about that. But this one brings together Erin Perry from the Legacy Arts Project, which Chrisala mentioned earlier, Randall Miller, who is involved in bringing dancers from outside to Pittsburgh to inspire the local dancers. Audrey Russo, who is the president and CEO of the Pittsburgh Tech Council and also has a background in the arts, so she'll have a lot of really interesting things to say. And Celeste Smith from the Pittsburgh Foundation, and she has special responsibility for the arts and culture. So I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that Pittsburgh now has a booming tech economy, and particularly in robotics, but also other areas. And so we want to think about what is the relationship between the tech culture here and the arts in the city, and how do they come together to make this a better place and a truly great place to live. So I'm really looking forward to it. That's on Tuesday.
Well, if you could not make a donation tonight, don't worry, because donations will be open through 2022 and can be accessed through the donation tab at shanasimmonsdance.com or the GoFundMe page. And your donations will support next year's technology and dance explorations, supporting artists, and forwarding a more equitable and sustainable community. So once again, thank you all so much for being here tonight. Thank you guys for organizing this, and thank you for supporting the arts, Shana Simmons Dance, and the Virtual Dance Exchange Project. We could not do this without your support. So with love, have a wonderful night.